to way forward. So this is the part where we make a plan and then we stick to it. This is what the other steps lead us to. We think through all this stuff. Now we have a plan. So there must be an action that creates movement towards the goal. See, if you go through the first several steps and you get to the point of way forward and you don't do it and there's not movement, you just stay in one place, you're just wasting your time and you're wasting somebody else's time. As a coach, we need to help other people see that there has to be action, that plans don't get things done, that talking about things doesn't get things done, that there has to be a movement. We've got to move on the way that we've talked through, and that's why we talked through so thoroughly the other things. So a few questions that we can ask for way forward is, which of the options are you prepared to act on? Which of the options are you prepared to act on? Now, sometimes you're not prepared to act on some certain thing because there's an obstacle in the way that you've got to get through first. But maybe there are some practical things you can do right now while you're waiting that can help you move closer. And so thinking about practical movement and what you can do right now and what needs to be done later on, that can be very helpful. Another question, what could hinder you in taking these steps? And again, this is where you anticipate what might go wrong or what obstacles there might be so that you can be wise about how you take those steps. Maybe it's just about wording things the right way, or maybe the right timing to do it. Or maybe it's you have to take care of one thing before you can get to this. And then here's the next question, and this is maybe one of the most important questions, maybe the most important questions when it comes to coaching people. And that is, are you fully committed to this? See, this is, and we've talked about this in a lot of different ways. We've talked about the try harder effect when, people say, well, I'll try, or I'll try harder. See, that's a lack of commitment. And so asking the question, are you fully committed to this? This is really important because things don't ever get done unless you're committed to it. Sometimes when maybe it's a manager meeting or a group meeting or what, or maybe just you're talking people into position before your shift, and there's a few things that you need to talk to. Sometimes you need to get that head nod. You look at them so you're telling them what's expected, but then you gotta actually point it out and say, hey, John, look at me. Can I get a head nod? You get this? Are you committed to this? And sometimes that's really important. You can't let passive aggressiveness just take place. Sometimes you have to address it and put people on the spot so that they understand that it takes a commitment. If they're not going to commit to it, then they're not going to accomplish it. So, are you fully committed to this? Is a great question. How are you going to feel once you have done this? This is a great question too, because I think this goes back to vision. If we focus on the vision and how it's going to be once we hit our vision, that's really what we're asking: is how is this going to feel once I've accomplished this? How's it going to feel? And that feeling is what you can move towards. You can use that as motivation to help you get from where you're at to where your vision is. Sometimes when we don't have a vision and we're not thinking about the positive of what's down the road that we're shooting for, and we just think about the goals, we're just focusing on the obstacles, which are negative things. They're things that you can't do, like eat cheesecake if you're dieting, or whatever it is, or get comfortable when you're supposed to be exercising, or not do anything when you could be studying something or learning from something. And so when we're just focusing on goals that tell us what we can't do, that's demotivating. But when we think about how we're going to feel once we've accomplished it, that can be very, very motivating. Help us. For instance, the people that when they wake up every day and they have that vision of being healthy and being energetic and being happy and down the road because of their physical health, and they hold on to that thought, they're gonna be able to become healthy more easily than somebody that wakes up and thinks, oh, I can't eat this, I can't eat that, I can't relax because I have to go do that or do this kind of exercise or all of these. Then you're gonna struggle with your way forward because you're just thinking about the negative things. So I think it's important that as a coach we help dangle that vision of what they want to become, dangle that and use that as their motivation as opposed to focusing on goals. All right, the last question here. Is there anything else that you would want to talk about now, or are we finished? It's a good question because there might be that one thing that's stuck in the back of their head that they just didn't bring up all the way through, and they've been meaning to bring it up, but they didn't. And this is the opportunity to do that. And that can certainly help with that. So, so this model is pretty basic, and there's a lot of different versions out there. And I don't know that it's important that you just absolutely follow this model to a T all of the time, but it is a good guideline that will at least help you in your conversations to be a little bit organized and not just shooting from the hip throughout the whole conversation, because that just really doesn't work. And I spent plenty of time doing that when I was younger, for sure. So just a quick review: the to grow model is topic, outcome, goals, and reality, options, and way forward. So I'll go ahead and open up the lines here for any discussion you guys want to talk about. Anything that stands out with this that you guys think about the to grow model?
I really like this formatted, you know, process, especially if you're new to this, new to coaching. I mean, I've been coaching for years, but not doing it right, not doing it with intentionality, with that, um,
Yep.
just kind of winging it out of a desire to help people get where they want to go, but not knowing, I guess it's like going swimming in the ocean by jumping out of a plane. Okay, now learn to swim once you hit the water.
Right. Yeah.
All you're going to get is
That's a
wet and
good point.
flop around.
I did the same thing though, Carrie. For many years, I was coaching, if you could call it coaching, but it wasn't very organized. And when you do it in a way that's kind of chaotic, you might have some results here and there, but it's just not going to be as consistent, and you're not going to do it as well as if you kind of reform your way of going and make it more intentional, like you said.
Well, this
No
also
doubt.
this also ensures that you have a participant. If you're
Right.
not, if person you're coaching isn't participating, then you're just talking.
Right. And all of this requires participation.
Yeah.
So, yep, that's good. Anybody have any specific one of these areas that might be more difficult than others that maybe you've struggled with people?
For me personally, the one that struck me is the way forward. Because people can talk a good talk, but can they actually walk it? You know,
Mhm.
you can get a plan together, and talk to people, about what their strengths, their weaknesses, their vision, their goals, the reality of their life right now, how they want the outcome to be. But if they don't want to take that first step, then nothing's going to happen. They're not going to get the results. And I think that's a little bit true for me personally also. I can have visions, I can have plans, but if you're not going to do step one or take the first step, you're just kind of fooling yourself.
I think you're 100% right, and I'd say the same thing about me. I've envisioned myself being
I
someone who's
agree,
in great
Steve.
shape, but you got
That
to
is
put down the donut
difficult.
first.
I think that's a big struggle for a lot of people. We all have these great ideas, and we're like flying the plane up around the clouds with this great vision of this great big picture of what's going on down below, and we just can't land the plane. We don't bring it into you know we don't bring it into the landing and actually start doing what we're seeing and what we think. So that is important. I can see it's interesting, this to grow model, as I just think back over the years and all of the people that I've spoken to. You know Conversations come out in my mind that I remember where we were specifically stuck on a different place. Like, for instance, reality has been a tough one. That's a tough one. Some people just really struggle with their awareness, and they struggle with reality, and sometimes it's you can't get people past that. They just have a different perspective on life, they live in their own world. Sometimes you can't get them past that. And then there are other times where people are very aware and they're really in reality, and so it's a very easy conversation, uh, but they don't have any vision. So it's easy to come to the conclusion, and they're very humble. They're quick to tell you about what they struggle with and what they're good at, but they can't put that into a vision. So it's all different. Some people just really struggle with decision making, and they're really horrible problem solvers because they don't see how to how to look at options correctly. So anybody known anybody that makes spontaneous decisions like how I described with the car, with buying cars? That's you. Yep. Yeah. I think it's all of us at some point for sure. Um, but yeah, and that thinking through the options, somebody that is maybe in the science world is going to be better at that most of the time. Now they might struggle in some other areas. They might struggle in some other emotional areas, but usually logic, people that are very logic and stand on reason are very good at thinking through the options. And people that are more creative maybe and communicate, that communicate well. Sometimes maybe they don't. They don't think through the options. They're more a little bit more of a spirited approach. So anyway, all right. Any other thoughts on this?
Well, I would struggle with all of them until I get this format down. But yeah, it's just you have to follow a process. This is really good. So we have to take the action now to do these things. That's the deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Put down the donut.
One thing too, guys, that is, we're going through this coaching thing, but you can learn all of this. You can learn about topics and outcome and goals and reality and options and way forward. You can have that thing memorized and just know. But if we don't ever sit down and actually meet with people, then it's not going to matter. So sometimes it comes down to putting it on a schedule. It might be, that's been one thing that's been really helpful for me is actually scheduling my meetings so that there's an expectation for myself that I put on myself, and then also for other people, that hey, let's meet on this day at this time, so we all know ahead of time and we can schedule around it. Last minute, yep, last minute coaching calls just don't work. I mean, sometimes you have to do those for more immediate situations, but um, the the best way for coaching to take place is when it's not in crisis mode, but it's in a proactive mode where you're doing it ahead of time, for more preventative issues and more strengthening and growing, as opposed to putting out fires. So, and the only way to do that really is to schedule it ahead of time and not wait till it's a problem. If you wait till it's a problem before you address your employees, then it's too late. We need to get out in front of it with coaching so that we can be in front. So that's, I mean, there's only three ways you can be. You can either be ahead of it, you can be right with it, or you can be behind it. And if we're behind it, we're always going to be struggling. So yeah, playing catch up relationally is tough. So yeah. All right, guys. Well, hey, I appreciate your time. I don't have anything else unless anybody else has any thoughts, but